We're talking about AI because firmly this could change 3D printing and
Mm.
will definitely have some sort of impact on the industry as a whole. But realistically, I'm not so certain that AI is what people think it really is, right? AI is complicated. Quite frankly, it's a buzzword. We're going to get into that.
Part of my background is I actually did AI development, and that I like to think has given me a unique insight into a lot of the buzzwords that are going around because there are a lot of them, and also a lot of the things people claim as AI, which is actually just very fancy if statements repeated over and over again, which isn't AI. So that I've got a couple of hot, spicy takes that is coming up.
Jacob actually has a background and experience in all of this. I have two business degrees from St. Leo University. AI, LLM wasn't really a thing. I'm sure now, if you are taking college or any classes for that matter, AI is up there. But for me, I really kind of detest the way that AI has been pushed on the general public. I feel as though AI is a crappy buzzword for just a complicated computer program that
Yup.
instead of calling it what it is, which is an LLM, right? A large language model, you're calling it an AI, which an AI should be something that simulates human intelligence, and this doesn't. It gives you an answer based upon trained data sets. It is not able to think and make decisions and things for itself.
LLMs are just one type of AI. So there's loads of types. You've got diffusion models, obviously you've got LLMs, you've got a computational network. A lot of what people claim as AI, however, is really just smart math that they just put the AI tag on to mean the computer did something without you realizing how it did it. AI is complex, and even my data, which I like to stay up to date with a lot of the news, is out of date. AI is going to change the 3D printing industry probably the most out of all of the manufacturing industries that will be hit by AI, 3D printing will succeed when it hits, whereas a lot of the other manufacturing industries will either be unaffected or crushed because it's that important to stay with that technology. Think of it this way, if AI gives free labor, how do you utilize that labor in a positive output? And in this case, AI is probably going to hit the design side first, or at least the control side first. And if a injection molding company doesn't realize they're going to be now given 5 million injection molds to make because AI can pump them out at increasingly good quality, they're not going to be able to capitalize on the manufacturing flexibility, which is infinite design. However, 3D printing can. And that is where I really do see this industry thriving in the coming years, whereas others might end up shrinking.
We're seeing AI being implemented in business quite a bit. Companies that are removing their entire customer support divisions in favor of AI chatbots and with varying levels of success. Some companies
Mm.
are incredibly successful at this, but quite a few of them are having like major walkbacks that are occurring because they're realizing that no matter how much you really train it, it's not going to often provide the same level of comfort, I guess, that a regular
Yeah.
person can do, right? You're literally missing the thing that makes human based customer support valuable, the human. Now, as a business myself, I certainly see the value to AI chatbots, but I think it makes the most sense on like a first level, very granular thing. And then there should be like a thing like, okay, they've gone too far into this chatbot. Like if you're doing more than 5 or 6 things in an AI chatbot, it's time for you to go to a human. That's where I think that a lot of companies are failing. They're just straight out replacing it rather than using it as an augmentation process.
Mm.
Certainly, they could use an AI chatbot internally for their human based customer support to enable them to get the answers faster that customers are asking them and enable them to not stay on a script constantly. But, you know,
So that's
Who
the
am
key
I?
thing is I don't class script-based chatbots as AI. Those are if statements. If customer said certain word, give certain response. That's not AI because there's no
That's just conditional
variation
reporting.
allowed.
Is that
Yeah, that is
okay?
like what a lot of companies called AI in the past, when in reality it's just fancy if statements pretending to be a human. LLMs, they generate answers. They do not look up answers. And it's actually easier to think of an LLM as a statistics machine. If you give LLM math, for example, you will be surprised how bad the math is. Like even
Hmm.
nowadays, like you use the brand new chat GPT like O3 that has just come out. It's crap. It doesn't work. And that's because LLMs don't do math. They don't do cognitive reasoning. They don't do these sort of things. But the long story short is if you give it a big multiplication number and another big multiplication number, the bigger the number, the worse the math becomes. And it will get roughly in the ballpark, but it will just be wrong. And that's because it's generating an answer. And the more complex something is, the harder the generation becomes. And that's also why AI can hallucinate, is it statistically trying
Yeah.
to give you the closest answer. But that doesn't mean it will always give you the same answer. So again, if you gave ChatGPT the same question 10 times, you will get 10 different answers. They might be formatted different, the end result might be the same, but sometimes they might be completely wrong. Think like the Amazon helpline chatbot. You said shipping bad, it saw the word shipping, gave you the shipping response.
Okay.
That's not generating a response. That's just giving you a bunch of text on a keyword. So that is one very good way to look at LLM AI versus chatbots.
I know as a company, as 3D Musketeers, we have looked at using LLM and AI and all that, but we found it nowhere near as effective. Now, to be clear, I feel like that's more due to our level of implementation, our level of understanding, and our level of desire for it to function. Why do you think that the buzzword of AI has become such a thing?
So I saw the trend happening and it is very disingenuous. The main reason it became popular to say things as AI was actually the success of ChatGPT. So ChatGPT hit the scene very hard when GPT-3 hit, and there was not a lot of awareness of what AI actually was in terms of the computational requirements and the thought process that goes into producing an output, like the token input, token output. All people really knew is you've got AI art models and AI text models, and all of a sudden they've appeared on the scene and they look like the next generation of industry. And then other companies will come along going, oh, yeah, we've got AI as well. So we're going to put the AI tab on. And then a lot of the times it was just flow trees. It wasn't actually expensive AI because they haven't done it. They've just done lower level machine learning programs. I do stand on that hill of machine learning. While it is an AI program, it is not AI. It's just been trained to do a thing and it's just a bit of complex code.
The way that AI has been used in hiring to me is like the most upsetting part of it, where instead of a human going through resumes, they're using an AI to quickly sort resumes based on good versus bad qualifications. And like, let's say you're not immediately qualified. Let's say you're not fully qualified to do the job, but you are heavily motivated, you're passionate, you've got all the right personal skills. You're just missing the hard skill. You've got all the soft skills, you're missing the hard skill. Well, the hard skill you can learn. And often the people that don't possess the hard skills, but have the soft skills and the desire to learn are so much more valuable to a business, especially a smaller business, than those that have all the hard skills, but none of the soft skills. Because the way I look at a resume, I'm going to read it, but I'm often going to ignore a lot of what you put in there because a resume is just a professional Tinder profile. It is all that you want us to see and nothing that you don't want us to see. That is all a resume is. Well, I've got some really funny things in my resume, like I was Time Magazine's Person of the Year. This is funny because Jacob doesn't know that it was either 2007 or 2008 where Time Magazine's Person of the Year was you.
I've been bamboozled.
You've been
He got me.
bamboozled, but it's not technically incorrect. You know, I have on there that I led a nonprofit fundraising by building a 6 gigawatt electromagnetic impulse generator that took a quarter and shrunk it to the size of a dime using only electromagnetism and then sold it for fundraising. Did that. That's on there. I put things on my resume that make you go, what the actual hell? And if you're a regular person that's reading it, you're going to enjoy it. If you're an AI that's reading it, this doesn't mean anything. It has no value to the actual job. Maybe that's why I just have my own business now. I don't know.
CVs are one of those things that probably seeing the most amount of low-level AI used in it,
Oh my God, yes.
where somebody will write a CV and they'll just ask ChatGPT to be like, "Hey, can we spoof it up a bit? Can we get rid of any spelling mistakes, make it more legible?"
I've absolutely used ChatGPT to help clean mine up, especially when it comes to sentence structure, punctuation, grammar, that kind of stuff. Like how to make it more readable to someone who's skimming. That kind of stuff is so incredibly valuable. But if you take its advice and apply it rather than saying, fix it for me, I think it becomes a better overall situation. That's what I did with mine. I'm also like, when I go and apply for jobs here and there, and I do it with like when companies reach out and say, hey, we'd like you to consider working with us on this. And I'm like, what's a salary compensation? They say this. I'm like, okay, here you go. I want to make sure that it's, somewhat designed for that company. That's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. That's honest. Honesty, I think, is where it belongs. But if you're relying on it as a crutch because you're unwilling to learn, that I have a problem with. We hired a writer, hired a dedicated writer. Mad Cat is old school. Mad Cat doesn't use AI. That was one of my first questions of, do you use AI in your writing? He's like, no, I hate it. I won't use it. Like, sweet. A business owner might say, well, that means they're going to cost me more money. Okay, I don't care. I'm going to get a more realistic example of a writing. Now, if we want to run it through, we can. So far, haven't needed to. His writing has been top notch. Very happy with that hire. Mad Cat came to us. Like, this is things that, like, small business, you love it when people do it. But in big business, oh my God, you don't do this. He said, this, I will read the exact message verbatim, and I want you all to understand these are the type of employees and staff that we're looking for. At Grant, thoughts on doing a series of articles on the basics of 3D printing. I'm going to reach out to staff name redacted too. We might be able to turn it into a wiki that only staff can edit. Which do you think would work better, articles or a wiki? I remember when I started in 3D printing, I had to hunt all over for different articles, videos, etc., to find out what was what and how it all worked together. Find yourself staff that do that. Completely unprompted. Completely unprompted. We had not discussed this whatsoever. Never have we discussed this. He had this thought, put it in the Discord, tagged me in it. My response, amazing idea, wiki first, then articles from it. He said, perfect. He's already got the team put together. They're already taking care of it. That is what matters. AI doesn't get you that. Because, hey, I was bored. I think when I'm bored, I feel that.
I mean, I feel so called out with that. Every time I come out with like really big business decisions, it's that one day I decided I'm not going to do any business.
Yeah, yeah. And your mind's able to, like, because now you're not focusing on the business decisions. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like, I had a business mentor talk to me about like using the speech on the
Mm.
ChatGPT app and talk to it like I would talk to like a staff member and ask it questions, and it doesn't feel the same to me. So
So, and that's one of the key things with LLM style big language models
they're
is
not
they are
humans.
uniform. They are designed to
Yes.
be the most average you can get because they're statistics machines. And while you can tell it to act in a certain way,
Yeah.
you are going to get an average response of whatever you're asking from it, which means you don't get nuance. You get an average amount of nuance, you get an average amount of quality. That it will never be better or worse. And that's one of the main benefits is you can sanity check yourself because it's an average level of whatever. And as it gets better, the just that middle average becomes more competent. But you're not going to get unique speech patterns unless you
Right.
told it exactly what to do. And even then it's going to be averaged out.
My God, if I was in school still.
Oh, I legitimately think that our current students are absolutely because imagine when you
Oh,
were a student
I
and
know I would take.
suddenly, yeah, you've got an AI that can answer all your questions at relative quality
Yeah,
and just
I
skip all the hard work. You're doing that.
I
Of
know
course
I
you're
would.
gonna do that.
I remember when my dad was in his doctorate program. One of the funny things when my dad was in his doctorate program is one of his professors had less experience on Earth than my father had in the field that the professor was talking about, which is always funny to me to look at that. Like, my dad has been doing this job longer than you've been alive, but you're the professor. But my dad would get book assignments and he'd have to like write his opinion on it. And he would read the whole book. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, you know what this book is about. Just read the cliff notes on it, the spark notes, right? Just read that. That's all you need. You're smart enough that you can fill in the gaps. It is a opinion paper. Why are you going to take the time to read the whole thing? He's like, well, that's just what I do. I'm like, why? Your time is valuable. Don't do that. But he still did. That was his kind of his old school bit working for him, is that he liked to go through it again. And my new school was that if I don't need to read it, I don't want to waste the time doing it. I can take that time back and use it for whatever I want, even if that is literally doing nothing. I recognize that there are people that are going to say, oh, read the whole book or don't. If you're not, you're just repeating someone else's opinion on the book. I somewhat disagree with that. I understand that you're not going to get the whole thing, but for 3D printing, I still haven't found AI to be all that useful. There are some of like, I know Maker World has some stuff, but I'm just not a huge fan of Maker World. That has like some AI stuff where you can give it a 2D image and then it will make it 3D. I don't know how much of that is an LLM or, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Jacob, as a 3D printer manufacturer, how do you feel about AI's value in designing 3D printers?
massively helpful. I have used AI quite heavily in just general business case. So everything from website development to printer development. One of the really strong things I like to do is use diffusion models for prototyping, where it's art generation. So once you understand the underlying technology behind AI, you start to actually be able to figure out how things can work. So don't take an output of an AI as, oh, the output is the response. Use it as
Right.
a tool in the arsenal of design. So in this case, AI is generalist. It is the most average of an output you can get for a piece of technology. And that is what you can use. So if I say, go design me a 3D printer, I'm not expecting it to tell me what motors I should use or what sensors I should use because they're too specific for what it needs to be. What it's really good at, though, is being like, hey, we've identified general features that your machine needs to have. We have identified a general aesthetic that you need to consider. And that is a really strong tool to speed up the development process. So I used to do what's called vibe design, which is not related to AI at all,
That seems
where
like a
vibe
very Gen
coding.
Z thing to say. Oh yeah, what do you do? I do vibe design. Okay, I do vibe design. Like,
Well, that's the thing is vibe
what kind
coding
of
is a thing now.
no, buddy, that is I refuse to accept that as a thing, okay? My millennial
Yeah.
brain cannot process that vibe design is a thing. Like,
Okay, let me tell you the difference. So vibe coding, which is the new
vibe
term.
vibe is about vibrations, okay? And how they interact with things.
So for anyone who has never heard of the term vibe coding before, instead of coding, you go to an AI and ask it to do the job for you. I'm not talking about that when I talk about vibe design. When I do vibe design, it's I will spend an entire day looking at one bolt and I go, it doesn't feel right. And then I spend the reasoning why it doesn't feel right. Because for me as a engineer, I now trust my intuition a lot more than the raw math outputs of this thing needs to be this strong and this thick. If my intuition says something is wrong, I will listen to that every time. One of the things that speeds up that process of does it feel right, does it not, is going to an AI and being like, hey, sanity check this stupid idea. Give me a direction of something that I didn't consider. I went to MidJourney because MidJourney is actually surprisingly powerful for the art stuff, and I generated 1,000 different pictures of 3D printers. 1,000.
That's a lot.
They were all terrible. However, because I am aware that they are generalist outputs, I can see what they put on the machine which is aesthetically pleasing. So a lot of them put the screen high and to the right, and a lot of them put a cabinet somewhere else, and they put the backgrounds being this. So when you start considering the nebulousness of AI-based art, you actually start seeing the concepts that it was pulling from, which is if you see a 3D printer that looks like this, it's more likely to be in this environment. If it has this aesthetic touch, they are expecting this output. As a designer, I can then take that, ignore all the artwork it generated, and then go back in and do it myself. And that is how a lot of that process happens. It actually worked for our website. So I am not a web developer. I've done web development, but I am not a web developer.
So
What really helped me with remembering certain concepts was I said, hey, here are my two colors for my website.
right.
Generate me 50 industrial based websites. And it would just generate a load of pictures. All of them are illegible. However,
But you're
what you
looking
start
at it for
seeing
the
is,
flow.
yeah, the flow, like, oh, big picture, small picture,
Ah,
text. This color matched with this color, matched with this. They went down a little bit, and then there's a big title
damn,
bar.
that's I haven't used things like that. Dude, that's
It's really strong. It's really strong.
so instead of me like I mean, we have graphic artists on the team, so like that's not that big of a deal for me. But like, let's say I'm solo designing a website and I want to like sanity check it and get some other examples of what it could look
Yep.
like. That's where, dude. Now that's I really okay.
So
I
you
really like
you can go on
this.
my website right now